Hey, welcome to another video of Attack of the Killer Reviews. My name's Benny, I'm your host, and this is my buddy Steve. He's going to be joining me for this episode.
How you doing, guys?
Today's episode we did the movie Dead Alive. It came out in 1993 in the US. It's actually titled Brain Dead in most other countries around the world due to a copyright conflict with another movie of a similar name. It was directed by Peter Jackson, who also did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It was filmed in and around Wellington, New Zealand. There are no known stars in the movie, and the movie had about a $3 million budget. Sorry. The film was finished 1 week ahead of schedule, and Peter Jackson used that time and remaining $45,000 to film one of the scenes in the movie. It's the scene where Lionel brings the baby to the park, and he notes that that's his favorite scene in the movie, and also that it's the most comical. We couldn't find the box office total for around the world, but in the United States it did about $242,000.
I'm guessing I don't even know if that's theatrical or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of a botch,
it would have to be. Yeah. So, a little bit of trivia about the movie. On its initial release in New Zealand, it made more per screen than Batman Returns, which came out in the same year, which is kind of a big
That's
feat.
pretty impressive.
Dude, yeah.
It's Batman.
It's Batman.
It's Batman.
The second Batman.
The second Batman.
Dude. And as of 2015, this movie has still not been released on DVD in its home country of New Zealand, which I find to be, I don't know, but it's been 5 years, it's 2020, so maybe they put it out now. I know that other countries had severely edited versions of it. There's one, we watched the 97-minute one, I think the original cut is 104 minutes.
Yeah.
I have no idea where to find that one or if it even exists or where it would be, but some were cut down to like 80-some minutes with the majority of the last sequence just taken out.
Part of that might have been just to get like the R rating.
Right.
Because there are movies like The Evil Dead that had to be edited like 3 or 4 times just to get it from an N17 rating to get it to an R rating.
Right.
Movie. So,
Yeah, so it could be in a theater
Yeah.
and actually make some money.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Another little thing, the rental in Sweden came with, I imagine VHS when it came out, but yeah, the rentals came with a complimentary vomit bag because the movie is so disgusting.
There's a lot of bodily fluids.
So much.
Like a lot of bodily fluids.
What else? Eli Roth, who did the original Cabin Fever, which is like one of my favorite older like gore movies. The Hostel movies. He's like a professional gore man. Said it was one of the only films, if not the only film, that actually quenched his bloodlust, which is pretty impressive if you think about that. And one last little note of trivia, 80 gallons of fake blood were used for the final scene of the film, which if you've watched the movie, you know how
it's
gross
pretty good.
It is. Crap. I made a little bit of a note because in 2011 they did that Evil Dead remake, and you know that ending scene of that.
2013.
Was it 13?
Yeah, 2013.
Okay, I thought it was 2011.
Sorry, good.
2013. Sorry. No, it's good. But that last scene where it's like literally
raining blood, yeah,
like that
the chainsaw to the face. That might be the only movie that tops this movie.
Right. But also in that scene, specifically the lawnmower scene, which is like one of the most iconic scenes in the movie, as you've seen. Yeah, it's your first time seeing this movie, so like that's definitely one that's gonna stick out. What was it? It was a gallon per second that blood was like shot out, like pumped. There's that scene where he's just like screaming with the lawnmower, and they're just hosing him with blood and gore. But yeah, that's just a little bit of trivia about the movie.
So, some of the things that I appreciated about the movie, I liked the initial reference to Skull Island from King Kong. I thought that was a pretty nice touch.
And another little side note to that, when Peter Jackson eventually redid King Kong, I think it was 2005.
Yeah.
There's a part where they're in like a boat in a ship together, I think going to Skull Island, and they have in a box, it's like caution, Sumatran rat monkey.
Oh, cool!
So it's kind of like comes full circle a little
Nice!
bit, which I thought was cool.
I didn't know that. I think we both agreed that one thing that was kind of funny was the part where the zookeeper just breaks off all the...
Yeah.
And he can just pick up the box by himself the entire time.
Yeah, they're
Like,
carrying,
he
like,
didn't
the
even
box
need
with
the
the
other
stick.
guy's help. He's just like, let's go, motherfucker, let's get out of here.
Throws it over the shoulder. Yeah. Oh man.
And then you fast forward a little bit, it gets to the mainland, and it's a cute little shop run by a cute little family, and that's how you get introduced to the main character, Lionel.
And
that's
Paquita.
And Paquita. And that's a pretty corny little scene of him just being like overly awkward.
Yep.
Honestly, I feel like it's me on a first date, just like, oh shit. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yep.
For a Peter Jackson movie, the acting isn't great. Although this is probably one of Peter Jackson's first movies.
Yeah.
And there's no known notable actors in the movie, so
No.
I've definitely seen a lot worse acting.
Yep.
But for a Peter Jackson movie, I think we can agree.
Yeah. And I think it was maybe his third or fourth movie because he did a couple movies before
Yeah.
this one. I know one specifically is called Bad Taste, and I've only ever seen the cover of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like this weird prosthetic skull guy with like a gun, and like he's flipping off the camera. And I'm like, so that's probably a very interesting movie.
All right,
We'll do that one someday.
I guess we got to do that one too. I really appreciated the claymation of the rat monkey.
Yep.
I thought that was a really nice touch in this movie. Really well done. Really theatrical. Overly had a lot of movement for like, especially with the budget of this movie of
Right,
like
right.
$3 million.
Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder like how much money they sunk just into that stop motion
Yeah.
animation stuff. Because it was good for for the
Especially for 1991. Like,
Yep.
really good.
Yep.
I think one thing to note about this movie is the relationship between Lionel and his mom is kind of like a Norman Bates type feel.
Yeah.
Real creepy, real Ed Gein.
Oh, yeah.
I love you, Mom.
She very much runs his life and
Yeah.
he allows her to do so.
Yeah.
No.
One corny moment was the scene where they have the people from, what is it, the WLWL?
Yeah. I can't remember what the acronym stands
yeah.
for, but it's this hoity-toity society that his mom is part of.
And the mom's like starting to fall apart. And they have one of the dinner guests and one of the guys, the husband of the lady that I believe runs the rest of the whatever the organization was,
Yep.
goes, "What we need is another war." And
Yeah,
he just
it's
starts
like-
eating.
Yeah, it's like this awkward scene of like they can obviously tell that something's wrong with Lionel's mother, but they don't want to say
They don't,
anything,
yeah.
being polite. And so like she's trying to talk to the mom, and it's not going so well. And then the dude just slams his knife down. What we need is another war, and then nothing about it after. They just go back to eating.
It's just like casual
alright.
dinner conversation, like, okay. It's like that weird Republican uncle that's
Yeah.
like a little racist. It's like Trump 2020, and you're like, all right, like,
Easy pal.
I'd like my wife to have rights, you know, like. Another corny moment. Paquita shows up with her dog, and she's like delivering stuff to Lionel.
Yep.
And the dog runs off.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. But during that scene that we were just talking about, the uncle, not the uncle, but the dude asks for dessert. He's like, we don't have any
Oh, yeah.
dessert or whatever.
There's no
And
pudding?
He brings out custard. And this is another like scene
Another
from the movie that I
bodily
remembered from
fluid.
watching it back in the day. Is he says something off key, and the mom like she squeezes her arm wound and like shoots pus into his custard, and he eats it. And he's like, oh, it's rich and creamy, delicious. It's so gross.
And the wife ends up like vomiting everywhere.
Because her ear falls off, and then she goes to eat her.
We
own
were
ear.
trying to figure out what the bodily fluid that Lionel's cleaning up
It has to be.
It's-
It has to be.
It's
puke.
probably got to be puke.
Because it's like dark, like brownish, but like also kind of red.
Yeah.
So it's like, what happened here? But yeah, it's after that scene where she's like, and she goes out. Yeah. He's
And then like immediately after that, Paquita shows up with her dog. And then the dog runs off. You just hear this yelp. And Paquita's like, my dog!
Yeah, they go upstairs, and the mother, who is hidden upstairs, has eaten Paquita's dog, Fernando.
Yeah, so
Fernando! You ate my dog! Your mother ate my dog!
And Lionel's response is, not all of it.
The whole, like, the tail.
We agreed that was probably one of the better scenes. in
Oh,
this
yeah, it
movie.
was definitely like a quotable line. It was super funny. Poor Paquita.
Yeah, poor
We said that
Paquita.
throughout the whole movie. Just poor Paquita.
She's faithful though. Like
Yeah,
she
and
sticks
the
it
thing
out.
about her too is like there would be a scene like that, and then like minutes later she'd be in a different scene and she'd be all happy and like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine. Like
I'm not
all right.
traumatized at all. Do you want to touch on the close-ups? I know that was like your
Oh,
favorite.
that was just something that we both like. There's so many
There's
close-ups
so
in this
many.
movie, and it's just like
It's nonstop.
it's a face, and then it's somebody else's face, and they're all looking intense, and then it'll cut to the other person, or it'll be a little
then
bit
another
closer.
face.
Sometimes it's just eyes, like eyes to eyes, but they do so many shots that are just close-ups of people's faces, and some of it's when it's like a zombie and their face is cut up or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just people looking back and forth dramatically at each other, like
and-
he's trying to like amp up the tension. It's
Yeah.
just funny.
and it's
is all
just
it is.
it's just comical.
Yeah.
I really liked the weird Nazi doctor guy that
Yeah,
he gets
yeah.
the tranquilizer from.
I think he's a taxidermist.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. And Lionel
Yes.
shows up and he's just like, because he's got spit.
He's like leaning over, like he's doing some work, and he's like drooling down his face, like
Just
like
that amount of
weird.
concentration.
Yeah, almost like he enjoys his work a little bit too much, maybe.
And you don't really, like, there's only like one little part that shows that he's like a Nazi, and he's just like randomly wearing the armband, and you're like, okay.
And the
does that have any
accent, and like
significance?
he's very much like you said, gives off that air of like he did some questionable things during World War II, and he's still alive. Like he retreated to New Zealand.
One thing, we kept a running tally of the tranquilizer up the nose.
Yep.
There's 5. 5.
Throughout the film, yeah.
It starts like at first it's just like boom,
Yep.
and then it's like 2 minutes later there's another one,
Yep.
and then that's just like a running joke throughout the movie.
Yeah, anytime he needs to like trank his mother, it always ends up sticking the syringe up her nose
Which
for
like
some reason.
wouldn't do anything.
Right.
You know?
Was he like trying to get to the brain or something?
I
Like I have
guess.
no idea why he did it that way, but I think maybe it was just a little cheeky joke from Peter
Yeah.
Jackson for whatever reason. Like he filmed that scene first, and then he was like, he's got to do. Let's just have her inject it in the nose again. Just do it in the nose.
Just
again.
keep doing it.
Yeah, just keep doing it.
Let's.
Almost like for his own self amusement.
He's just like, I wonder how many times we can get away with this.
Right.
I bet we can get at least 5. Loved the use of all the vintage cars.
Yeah,
So
I didn't
many.
notice that when I first watched it, but yeah, it's like every single car in this movie is
There's like a there's like a 60s Studebaker, a lot of just like vintage Fords, vintage Chevys. Like every car in this movie is vintage.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that because I love old cars.
And they're nice vintage
Yeah,
too, not
they're
like
like-
some run down crap cars. Like, yeah.
They're like well taken care of vintage cars.
Yep. Maybe that's what most of the budget was spent on.
Maybe. There's another movie that did that, and I was like, damn, like how much did we just spend on all of these vintage cars? But for the life of me, I can't remember what movie that was. I've watched it in like the last 3 months. Though.
Yeah.
And I remember like thinking like, there's a lot of vintage cars in this movie. One of the most grotesque scenes. Yeah.
Sorry. You can describe some scenes in this movie strictly by like hand motions and sound effects.
Fart noises. Just like squishy, splashy noises. There's one scene where they're pumping the mother full of embalming fluid.
Yep.
And the guy just leaves the room. And it just starts like exploding out of the mom.
Yeah, she like starts bulging out and like just
She
spraying
just becomes
out.
huge and just like out of her eyes.
definitely a gross movie. And in that scene too, like when they discover it and they turn the machine off, I don't know if you noticed, but there's 2 sandwiches sitting on top of her body. And so these things get hosed with embalming fluid, and then like they shut off the machine, and the one dude grabs both of the sandwiches off, and then like starts taking a bite out of one of them. Like, dude, gross.
I think the character we appreciated most though was the Kung Fu priest.
Oh my god.
I kick ass for the Lord.
That
There
was
needed
literally
more
movie.
of the.
I sent you the trailer, and
Yeah.
like, he says the iconic line for me was that. Like, that's what my takeaway as like an 8-9-year-old kid watching this movie. That's what my takeaway was from it, from like early on.
It's
that.
the best line in this movie, and the priest just goes, "I kick ass for the Lord,"
Yeah.
and then just starts kicking the ever-living shit out of like all these like punk zombie.
Yeah, punk zombies.
people.
They're like the dudes in the 80s, like people that would just hang around and drink and bread, like cemeteries and
Yeah.
stuff. Like you see it in like, what was it, The Night of the Living Dead. That movie where like the punkers are hanging out there, just like all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff like that. And yeah, that was another shot where it's like they think that Lionel's some like freak or he's trying
just
to do
into some
whatever,
kinky
like
shit.
desecrate dead bodies, and so like he's pissing on the mother's grave, and like her fist just comes out and grabs him, assumedly by the dick, and pulls him down, and then
And that's how he dies.
Yeah, that's how he dies.
He just like gets torn apart
And
from
yeah,
his
there's
dick.
that shot of like he's laying on the ground, and there's just
He's
like
just,
blood
like-
spraying out from under him.
He's just like
seizing.
seizing.
And then they all turn into zombies.
Yeah.
And the priest shows
And the priest
up.
just kicks
And-
the shit out of him.
Like, what did I write? I think I wrote like Kung Fu dismemberment. He
Sweeps the leg.
out, like his legs off, and then he kicks the dude's head off, and just like all this shit. It is definitely, it was unexpected because it's
Yeah.
like a horror movie, like kind of a cheesy horror movie, and then this dude shows up.
It's got a
and
good
he's
amount
doing
of comedy.
actual kung fu moves too. It's not
He's
like
just like,
fake
"Whatcha?"
choreography.
Like they actually hired like some dude who knew martial arts. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like
Yep.
it wasn't just like Steve Seagal showing up like
Yep. And breathing all heavy.
The special effects in this movie, like, so good.
Yeah.
For a $3 million budget, they've got $300 million in special effects.
And so the practical effects, and that's something you don't see even in horror movies nowadays. Like I remember when I talked to you about doing a movie initially, it was The Thing.
Yeah.
From 1982.
Yeah.
Great movie. I'd still like to do that one, by the way.
We can
But
totally do that.
They remade that in, I think, the 2010s at some point.
Yeah.
And it was okay, but it's like it was
It
all
didn't
CG.
hold true
There's
to the original.
no practical effects, and that's what always bugs me about certain movies. Is like it's almost like a cop out now,
Yeah.
where I will just do some CG because I assume it costs less now. to do
I would assume
anything
so,
CG.
yeah.
And so doing practical effects almost costs more money, but like it comes through in the movie, and I think makes it a lot better.
Yeah.
And this movie is nothing but practical effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like our theory for later on in the chainsaw
The
scene-
lawnmower scene, yeah.
the lawnmower scene is they just have a close-up of the lawnmower.
Spinning blades. All you see is just the frame
So
of
we
the blades.
yeah
spinning.
we think they just like fed like fake body parts that like exploded into guts.
Yeah.
And
Almost
that-
even just like rubber hands, and they were just slowly,
Yeah.
and they would just spray blood as it was
Yeah,
going,
like
which
that's
is like
exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
And it plays really well into the movie. Like it's really practical.
yeah.
Like
And, sorry, go ahead.
it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that in movies nowadays.
You don't get most of the shit that's in this movie in
Yeah.
any movies nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
We also had a running tally of nut shots for the uncle,
Yeah.
Lionel's uncle. I think his name was Uncle Lee. I wasn't like 100% sure because the introduction is so fast.
Yep. Yeah,
And
I don't
they
know the
never say it again.
Yeah, we'll say Uncle Lee.
We'll just say
for now,
Uncle Lee.
Uncle Lee. It's his uncle, the big heavyset guy that
Smokes.
and also uses an inhaler at the same time.
It's like a really weird inhaler too.
Yeah, it's like almost. Yeah, I can't even describe it. But it's not like the ones you see like this. It's just like he like sticks it in his mouth and he gets excited every once in a while, and it makes that little sound like. Psh.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe it's drugs of some kind.
It's just liquid cocaine.
Guy likes to party. Guy likes to party.
He does.
We know
That's
that.
a big scene.
Let's see.
There's running nut shots. Did we count how many?
4. I counted 4.
There's 4.
If you want to make a 5th one, in that final scene where he, like, the mother kind of grabs him. She grabs him by the bottom and the top of the head, and like you see the shot of his crotch with her hand going at it. So I don't know if you want to count that.
We can count it as 5.
Let's do 4.5.
Okay.
4.5.
We'll meet in the middle.
Right.
I thought a really good death scene was the guy or the zombie pulling out the dude's rib cage.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I have that. Like I told you in my notes, it's just like a list of random, like crazy things that happen in the deaths.
We're gonna try to put a good majority of the death scenes in this video. I can only cut so many parts, so they might just be like sporadic. Like we're gonna talk about it. Bam! There's gonna be a clip. So
get ready for random clips.
Yeah. So the ribcage one was really good.
Yep. And also, I just want to touch on something beforehand. So this is leading. We're starting to talk about the scene in the house, like where the party's basically the party's over. But before that, while the party's still going on and nobody's been attacked yet, he is down in the basement with Paquita, and she convinces him to like kill all the zombies that are down there and bury him. And that's the last time you see.
Oh, that's
he
the last
his
tranquilizer
mom through the nose with poison. And then when he's down there, you see the bottle roll, and it's like poison. And then on the other side of the bottle, it says animal stimulant.
And then it's like from there, it's a scene out of Power Rangers. All the zombies just shoot up, and like pose, like aha!
Yeah, I wrote in my notes: poison equals animal stimulant equals super zombies. The way that they come out of that hole, it's like ha! They're just.
It's like a scene from Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
you expect them to just like start going into like the Thriller dance.
Also, I wrote a non-traditional zombies. Like you think a zombie movie, you think, oh, you chop the head off, or like
cut the head off.
No, like there's living entrails in this movie.
You kill the brain, it's done.
Yeah, like there's so.
They will not die.
Yeah, they're dead. Alive.
Yeah. Which I guess is where my title of the movie came. Another thing we agreed on is that the priest should have known Kung Fu as a zombie.
Yes.
That would have made this movie like a 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh man, it would have. I mean, the
it was still
good,
pretty good,
but it would have heightened it even that much more. Even and like a perfect scene to put that in would be where Uncle Lee is just hacking away, and like he has that scene where he's just going to town on this group of zombies, and then there he meets his match in the priest that knows Kung Fu, or like that's like an actual fight instead of just like the close up of him like hacking,
just like,
and then they're like spraying blood behind him and stuff, and then it's just the pile and he lights up the smoke. Like, all right, that was the one time where I'm like, Uncle Lee's kind of bad. Uncle Lee's kind of a badass.
Yeah, I might respect you a little bit.
But yeah, priest knowing Kung Fu, I feel like that was a little bit of a misstep. It could have capitalized on it, but for what we got, still amazing.
I feel like we're asking a little too much,
right? Yeah.
For a $3 million budget, but I'll give this movie an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
But if it had the Kung Fu priest, I would give it a 10 out of 10.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Alright, so we were talking about the final death scene. Covered the priest knowing Kung Fu.
Yep.
That would make it a 10 out of 10.
How we should know it as a zombie.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, the final death scene, I would say, probably about 20, 25, 30 minutes long.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that final action sequence. There's so much going on.
And it's just non-stop.
Sometimes it's fast, like
blood
Light
and
Bulb
guts.
Zombie. Like you could just like list off random names of different things that happen. you know?
Yeah. Like I want to try to get as many of the death scenes in this video as I possibly can.
Without just showing the entire
Yeah.
last scene.
So
Yeah.
there's the rib cage.
Rib cage.
There's the face punch. Guy
Yep.
through the face.
And also the face off where they
Yep, they rip the
like-
guy's face
yep.
off.
Yep. God, there was the one with the baby, where the baby like pulls the head face open and
Yeah.
is inside, and yeah, there's just so much. The head shears, and then he's like
He cuts
doing
his
this with
head
the
in half.
shears, like
It's just non-stop. It's ridiculous. There's too many to keep track of, honestly. But it all leads up to the final, like, last stand, I guess you would call it.
yeah, what's after the lawnmower sequence when he's doing all that.
Yeah, where Lionel shows up with the lawnmower. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Party's over," and then just starts mowing people down. And I think we were trying to figure out what they did with that.
Yep.
Our theory is they did a close-up of the lawnmower and they just fed like fake body parts,
Like
and
rubber
splashed
parts
blood.
or something like that. Like it was like a real working lawnmower with
Yeah.
a real blade, and they're just like feeding like wax or rubber like arms and appendages, and it's filmed fast enough, and like the cuts are like it's edited in a way where like you don't really get a great view
Yeah.
of it, but like yeah, it's like feeding these in and then they're like just spraying blood. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And it's tricky. It's
$1 million
really clever actually. Like the way that was done is pretty clever.
Yeah, $1 million special effect for probably $40. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yep.
so I think we both agreed that our favorite death scene was the lawnmower. Just like,
Oh yeah, there was just
There's-
so many
you-
different. You could rewatch that scene
Yeah,
so many
you could
times. and
honestly
like,
just-
oh, there's that disgusting thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that disgusting thing. Oh, there's that disgusting thing. Yeah, like it's something new every time you see it.
yeah. So for a review, we did the movie Dead Alive. It came out in 1993 in the U.S. It had a budget of roughly about $3 million. It was shot by Peter Jackson, who is best known for his films The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. All of the filming actually was done in Wellington, New Zealand. There was one scene that was Peter Jackson's favorite. He had an extra $45,000 on the budget, filmed it. It's hilarious. I'm gonna put parts of it in this video.
Also, completely unnecessary. It's like
Yeah.
Lionel just decides to take the baby to the park for some reason, and antics ensue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
basically
a
like
puppet
him
baby.
beating the shit. out of-
Sometimes it's a little kid, I think, in the baby costume.
Maybe
because
it's a
the way
midget.
it
I
moves.
don't know.
Yeah, could have been.
Can we say midget? I'm gonna say midget.
Little
Sorry,
person.
guys.
Little midget.
Little midget. You know. In the U.S., it had a box office, and it only did about 242,000. We don't know what it did worldwide. We couldn't find that information.
Yep.
And then there was no notable actors. I don't remember if I already said that or not.
Either way.
But again, there's no notable actors.
Wait, is there some notable actors in this? Peter Jackson does have a cameo at some point. I think he's the zookeeper guy.
Yeah.
The guy in the first sequence where he like gets the arm cut off and then the other arm and then they go for the head.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to talk about the last scene with his mom too, because
I feel like that was a good majority of the budget, making that.
that big prosthetic like weirdly like almost like weirdly sexual like
It's got big
monster
boobs.
version
It's
of
got
his
big
mom.
butt for no reason.
For no reason at all. And then like I said, like the rat head sort of, and like there's
Yeah.
flesh falling off it, and like yeah, when she like sucks him into like her insides, and then he uses this magical little
medallion or
talisman
whatever.
medallion to like cut his way out. Yeah, that whole sequence was just ridiculous.
It's,
and that
it's
again,
awkward.
we were
A
talking
little
about in the middle of the movie where it's like there's parts in those scenes where they're just caked in gore and they're completely covered in blood and it's just disgusting.
bit. And then like
you
30
see-
seconds later, they're not. There's no
they're real
continuity.
cleaned up. They look real cleaned up for what they just
It's like they
did.
just got out of the shower, like, oh, whoo, ready for the day, you know?
Which is way too clean.
And then-
Yeah, you could see the color of their clothes is not completely red stained.
Yeah.
With, like all the gore. He literally swims in it when he's inside of his monster mother, I guess you would call
And then he
it.
gets spit out, and he's covered in it, and he physically, like, tears himself out of this pile, and then, like, the last sequence, he's got, like, almost little to no blood on him at all.
Because he action heroes his way down because Paquita's hanging off the ledge or whatever. And he totally does the Army of Darkness thing
Yeah, with the belt.
where he just like whips it and it catches and then he like grabs her and they slide down.
Another thing, I feel like the mom, like the final mom, kind of reminds me of the Deadite mom from Evil Dead 2
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
extended neck.
Yep.
Just
Just another example of good like practical effects type stuff. Yeah, which you don't see anymore. You don't see a lot of those practical effects, and that was definitely like showcased in this movie.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. And like, yeah, that's what I mentioned about how a lot of movies nowadays, like The Thing I used as an example, like that was like the remake of The Thing was all CG, and like it would like people just passed it by.
yeah.
But you watch the old one from 1982, which
And
is
there's, like,
one of my
actual
favorite Kurt Russell
practical-
movies.
Yeah.
Like, hands down, one of my favorite Kurt Russell movies. And also Keith David. Represent Keith David. But yeah, like, that is just masterful practical effects and so well done. And as in Dead Alive or Brain Dead.
For a $3 million budget, this packed in $300 million for the special effects.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, like it's ridiculous how good they did on such a small budget. Like, and the fact that there was still money left over to do an entirely different scene that didn't add to the plot at all.
At all. Yeah, yeah.
Like,
definitely.
that's pretty impressive.
Great movie, man.
Yeah.
Great movie.
And is there anything we didn't cover?
No, I think that wraps everything up.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode of Attack of the Killer Reviews. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Steve, thanks for popping in.
Dude, happy to
We'll
be
do
here.
this again.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we'll find another movie.
Yeah.
For
You
sure.
mentioned The Thing. I
Yeah.
think we should do that soon.
For sure.
Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to keep up to date with all of my videos. Woo apparently wants to be a part of this one. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.